If a parent or a teacher or leader takes one key thing away from this conversation today, what is it that you'd love for them to hold on to?
Children aren't changing, our environment is. So don't lay blame on the child.
Welcome to the Core Growth Show, the podcast where we aim to educate, share, and inspire you to grow, lead with purpose, and make a real impact. With your host, Gary Wallace.
Welcome back to the Core Growth Show. Something a little bit different in today's show. I am being interviewed by a good friend of mine and mentor in Pete Lonton. Pete is also the host of his own podcast called Fire in the Belly, as well as many other things that this amazing man does. So, Pete, thank you for joining me on this interview of my own podcast. I like this
Yeah.
idea.
Oh, listen, thank you. Thanks for having me on. First of all, I appreciate you letting me hold the mic for a short time. So, yeah, it's great to come on and always inspiring to have a conversation. So, thank you for having me.
Okay, so the whole format is we're going to go through a few topics over the number of weeks and looking at child development, where we're at, how we can improve it. So I thought it'd be better having somebody on who is the master of questions and really get me to explore options and question a few things as well. So, Pete, we're going to look really today about where we're currently at, isn't that right?
Yeah, pretty much. And I suppose the question is around, modern childhood, what's happening, and potentially what we could perceive as the crisis that is modern childhood. I suspect you might have a different view on it, but you read the newspaper, social media, and saying, listen, we are in a crisis. Some people will say that kids are broken or they're lazy or they're naughty or they're difficult, etc. So, um, I suppose let's start off. I mean, really, if you had to sum it up, where do you think childhood is these days?
I think you'll hear a lot where people say, children have changed back in my day. I think it sums it up that children haven't changed, but our environment has changed. We now live in a modern world where we have our devices, where we're becoming more stationary, we're sitting around a lot more. We're not even getting outside as much or exploring as much as well. And the research backs that up too. So we are looking at there's 50% of children aren't meeting the physical activity guidelines. And those guidelines are that every child, let's call it like kind of primary school age, so from 4 year old the whole way up to around even 16, are meant to be moving at 60 minutes of vigorous activity every single day. So that means that they should be not just walking, but maybe coming into a bit of a jog, playing tag in the back garden, maybe playing their sport, just interacting with kids, getting on their bikes, doing stuff that children do naturally to meet this 60 minutes. Because whenever you start putting figures down, you think, okay, it has to be structured, it has to be a class, it has to be a program. It doesn't. It could be 3 minutes of playing with a dog outside and run around chasing after it. That'll add to your 60 minutes of vigorous activity every day. So, like 50% of our children are not meeting those guidelines, which can be a bit alarming. Like I know you've three kids yourself as well. So, you know, one and three of them, or even one and a half of those aren't moving, supposedly due to the guidelines. So it's just startling that there is so many children out there that probably aren't given the opportunity to meet those guidelines.
I suppose I could say, is it the child? Is it the parent? Is it the school? Is it society? What is it? What is it that's changed that has led to this sort of shortfall?
I think everything you just mentioned, we're creatures of habit. The habit used to be that you would come home from school, and I know in my childhood it was either get homework done, throw the bag in the corner, and go out and meet the guys at the local gravel pitch. So it wasn't even an unbelievable surface. You went down and you played football. You had that opportunity. We've lost even the art of going and calling for our friends, that ability to get up, because once you're up and you're out, you've made a conscious decision to go
Hmm.
and go call for your friends, knock on their door. Are they in? No, they're not. Call back in half an hour, walk back home, wait half an hour, come back. No, they're still not here. He's still eating his dinner. He's like, go away. So there's a few things, I suppose, that's a societal change now, where a
Yeah.
lot of children, especially in teenage years, will have their phone and be like, Where are you? Will we meet up? No, let's just jump online and play, or I can't get out. It's it's not that they don't want to, they're just we're habitual, we're designed to be lazy because we're meant to take the path of least resistance to save energy. So back in the caveman days, whatever was easier and you could save energy, then you do it. Here they can save so much energy by just jumping online and having what they feel is a really positive interaction, which to a certain extent can be, but they're missing out on all the physical, the emotional, just that connection in person that children miss out on. So society is one, definitely,
Mm.
on terms of that.
So I suppose, I mean, if the children have adapted to the features around them, so if there's a phone instead of, as you say, jumping on your bike and going knocking the door, if there's a phone, if there's a text message, if there's something else, right? It's natural, right? They're going to find a more efficient way of doing it, right?
Yeah, that's it. I suppose when you do, it's like that evolution might have been you did walk to your friend's house, now you could cycle. Then maybe your parents had a car, so they could drop you there. Then maybe your older sister or brother had a car, so then they could drop you there as well because people have more disposable income. Infrastructure was getting better around. Now it's like we don't even need to do any of this. So we're always finding that easier path. But
Mm.
it's the knock-on effect that can have that without even realizing they're a few hours sitting down again without going outside. I know my own son, we give him that wee bit more independence as he was growing up. My eldest Josh, that we did give him the freedom to walk into town with his friend. And now it's nearly habitual where any time that him and his mate meet up, they'll still walk into town, but they never really ask for a lift. Like
Mm.
sometimes I know if I was Rena and going that way, I was like, do you want a lift in town? He's well, if it's going, I. It's not like, will you run us in? Because I think what they find is the benefit, their friendship grows when they're walking. And it's funny, like he'll come back and he'll be like, God, looked at my watch and a 17,000 steps done today, just walking through the town. I was like, so those are the kind of the knock-on effects that happen. And I suppose from me as a parent, I I would have been probably easier just to give them that wee bit more freedom,
Mm.
and right or wrong, indifferent. It's a decision that I made then. But it's interesting then it backs up the facts where in around the 1950s, children had a radius from home, they call it like from play and from home, of 2 to 3 miles. Then when you come into the 80s and 90s, it came around 500 meters. Okay, so not a huge distance, but still there. Nowadays, it's like eyesight. So this is for like younger children. It's really
Yeah.
eyesight, and there's less independent play. So having given the freedom to go, no, no, don't climb that. No, 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 don't go there. No, no, just sit there or do this football because that's safe. So children have lost out, and that becomes through parents. Maybe that's now our parents that they're having younger children as well have grown up in that era of
Yeah.
doing that stuff. This is what we done. We stayed here. Maybe it's society where we've got stuff instantly on our phone now to say it's a big bad world out there. It's always had scary people, but now you're just seeing more and
Mm.
more of it. So that could probably be a thing in terms of it comes to a parent's choice, your choice on what you decide is being physically active and getting them up and moving. Is that a high priority? Do you prioritize that for yourself? Are you reflecting habits that are going to knock on to your children? Because you're their biggest influence.
Yeah.
For majority of children, their parents are their biggest influence, are the ones that they are around, their environment, they're setting the environment, they're displaying it, they're picking off it. So definitely as parents, we can first and foremost take that decision and say, right, what are my actions doing? Am I constantly on my phone? Am I, whenever playing my child, got the urge to do that? Can I put that down? Can I put that away? Because I've done it and I've been called
Hmm.
out. There's nothing being
Yeah.
better being called out by a child to the go, you're right, like no phones at the table when we're eating. And as soon as that, no matter important or whatever I think it is like no phones at the table. I'm like, you're right. So we gotta definitely from the parent point of view, The stats are out there. They're not as physically active. They aren't reaching the recommended guidelines. And even as adults, we're not doing that either.
Yeah.
Just recently I was listening because there's a whole down south, there's a whole let's see, storm in a teacup about how much they're spending on a shed hut or a bike hut outside a hospital. And then the facts came out that only 1% of people in Ireland cycle to work every day. So you're like, is it a thing where they need to invest more in structure? Do they need to change habit? What was
Mm.
one of the downsides? And they said from the research people are back was weather, which, okay, we can't control.
Yeah.
But what are we doing? It's mirroring the habits of that physical activity. So that would be from a parent's point of view too.
Mm. Did laugh. I was watching a program last night, and they were talking about Finnish schools and Finnish forest schools, outdoor schools. And they were saying, yeah, so they have a temperature cutoff whenever it drops below -30, they won't take the kids outside.
Amazing.
These kids are just like they're in these snow suits, storm suits, multiple layers, all the rest. And there's like, 3 feet of snow on the ground, and they're jumping off rocks, and they're doing all this, and they're celebrating being outdoors and all the rest. And it's like, yeah, but so our temperature limit is -30. You're like, right. I can't see that working in this country somehow, but
Yeah. It's our limit is -30 because then the children's lungs will actually explode at that time from frost and then just whenever they thaw out. So we decided we'll take them in, but anything that we'll just go for it. But it is true. It's like it's so safe nowadays. There's a coin, the term out there is risky play. How much are we putting our children into that risky play? And how are our behaviors helping that? So if a child does start to climb, it's not, whoa, get down. The question is, do you feel safe?
yeah,
You know, ask a prompt instead rather than you worrying about what was happening. That let them adventure, let them go and say, let them feel their own adrenaline, their own feelings, their own sense of, whoa, this is high,
yeah,
fantastic. Just know that you're there. So, and even our school systems are set up by. Funny, I was doing a program yesterday. It was a funded initiative to help children who have a higher likelihood of not going to a positive destination, and it's all about giving them the opportunity to see, right, well, if they're going to go back into education, they're 14 years old. If they're going to continue education, go into some form of employment, take up an apprenticeship, and we have this group. And probably one of the best things that we do with our classes, we try and take it outside every day that we're with them.
hmm
And we had another company, Hip Psychology, came down and they did a workshop on confidence and using your emotions and body. And again, it was outside. And the teachers came down and are like, oh my God, this is great for these students. And they literally were just letting loose. Like, yeah, because the alternative is to sit them in a room, to force feed them this knowledge and understanding that even their brains, like we had a lot of them, and some of them label themselves, which I'm not too saying, but like someone like, oh, I have ADHD, it's okay. You're like, no, you just have a different way of looking and seeing things, and it's up to us to provide the environment for you to flourish in it. So even with that, having them outside and knowing with our own school system, keeping them indoors, is it the right way? Because I know it likes the Finnish the school system. It's a lot shorter time period. There's a lot more opportunity to be outside, to explore. There's a lot more outdoor learning. There is even teachers themselves are in society are classified at a higher standard. They must at a minimum have a master's degree to teach in Finland. So they're actually seen on par with doctors and solicitors and lawyers because of the education that they go through. So, that's that's a method. It's not the method. It is a way of thinking, but it's just interesting when you look at their scores and you look at their national statistics too, which I'm not too sure on, to be honest. But it'd be
hmm
interesting just to look and say, well, where are their levels of physical activity?
sure,
What are they doing? What opportunities do they have? So And then that's when we start to see a true reflection when we're looking at this field or area, really, when we're talking about physical movement.
How do you think that's likely to manifest forward? And I know it's sort of outside of your area as such, but I mean, when kids grow up and ultimately become adults and go into sort of adulthood, what features are we likely to see or not see?
Well, I think we're probably seeing them now where you've got, issues with mental health. The NHS is oversubscribed with that. And you can actually see now that doctors are starting to prescribe physical education as a method for this. They're starting to prescribe meditation as well as any medical care. They're even starting to subscribe now or about this whole epidemic of loneliness. How are we actually getting people back into communities? So, which is a knock-on effect of whenever you are being physically active in a group, in your friendship, you are going out, you're playing your games, you are maybe getting involved in some community-based either sports or some cultural-based anything at all where you're connecting with people.
Mhm.
So, as a knock-on effect of not having that physical connection, not having that physical movement, improving your competency too as you move. So knowing, okay, well, I spend most of my time running, cycling, jumping, throwing, kicking, catching. So I have the confidence and the competency to actually go and play badminton with my friends now in my 40s or 50s, or I can take up a different sport or I could do whatever. So that's what children are missing out on.
Yeah.
And that's nearly the knock-on effect. We're there. This is what we do. This is my habitual, but the body's craving these things of connection, of opportunity to move. The body's designed to move. As we move, it improves everything we do. Proves how we think, how we function. And movement is key to, especially at such a young age. That's why play is so important. That our young children, why do we encourage tummy time so much? Why is there toys? Why are they taught to grab, to roll, to reach? Because movement is development. And that again comes back to is what some of our children may be missing out on.
Yeah. Well, what do you tend to see as kids are coming into the core kids environment or one of your programs? What do you tend to see in kids, and how does it change as they start to get more engaged?
And with core kids, the reason it was set up was I was involved with sport all my life, but some of them environments don't suit those children at that time. And
Hmm.
that may be for a number of issues due to the coaches there may not be experienced enough. It may be a parent and there's no fault of their own. And they're like, well, this is the way I was taught, so I'm going to teach all you guys the same. Whereas with core kids, our first thing is providing a positive experience.
Hmm.
It's not about actually teaching them the movements or teaching them how to move. It's giving them opportunity where they think this is something I want to do. So we care for them. We love them. We when they come in, we want to make them smile within the first 5 seconds, just to say, okay, I belong here. So it's that sense of let's get them in the door. Let's make them feel welcome. Let's make this an environment where they can be creative and learn. And really, what we're trying to do is bring out their inner child. It's there, even for young children, because everything can be so structured. It's like we ask questions. Could we do this differently? How could we do it? So they start to explore and then we start to praise and they say, "Oh, well, I like this. This is quite
Yeah.
good." I also find this challenging because you constantly keep at me to try something new or come up with something, but it's in my terms. It's like, if you don't want to do that, that's fine. Go back and practice whatever you're doing with that, as long as you're moving. That would be always my key message with them. I was like, can we do this instead? I was like, yeah, well, we're following this here, but we'll do maybe that after. But as long as you're moving, that's fine.
Yeah.
And no silliness trying to hurt anybody. But yeah, so you can see that as children progress. And for me, it's like a stepping stone to give them the confidence and competency that if they do want to go and play sport, that child now is in a better place to go into that environment, so they can continue to be physically active for the rest of their life. And that's the key to, it's not about just playing a sport, it's being physically active for the rest of your life. So you would see that a lot. And unfortunately, what we're seeing a lot is we're having to regress a lot of our programs now for children in terms of their physical competency. So how they can actually run, hop, skip, jump, and sometimes for whole classes, but mainly for individuals within that class. And we're finding more and more of those needs that we have to give regressions to a lot of those children because they have
Mhm.
missed out on the early phases as well. And if that pattern continues to happen, it's not like they're playing catch up. They're just maybe keep going down a slippery slope.
Yeah. What do you do with that feedback of which every parent knows and has heard of? I'm bored.
I would, yeah. I think it comes down to where we are today, this instant in a society thing where everything has to be instant.
Yeah.
Even us as adults, you send a WhatsApp, somebody reads it and it's a double tick blue. Why have they not responded? What's happened? I just sent that man an email an hour ago. Why didn't he not get back to me? It's like instant. Whereas beforehand, you would have had to send a letter or a postcard and wait back 3 weeks. So I think we've set our children up with that, and it's so easy for them now. Our option as well to distract them with screen time.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is what it actually does to the brain. So we don't give our children enough time to be bored because we're constantly hitting them with fast paced stimulations the whole time. You know, Reels, TikToks, YouTube, even. Like, what content are we showing our children and their brain? We're not actually giving them the opportunity to be
Mhm.
bored because boredom actually helps creativity. Whenever we give our children the opportunity to slow down and be bored and get past that first phase, that first itch, there's actually a part of the brain. It's called it's gone the default network mode or
Mhm.
default mode network. So it's a part of the brain whenever we slow down, boredom comes in. And this is where creativity, adventure, creative thinking all comes in because we're getting away from instant dopamine hit, flash, 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 slowing down. So it's really important we actually let our children get bored. We have to let them get bored because we're actually really helping their own brain development. They will start being creative. They'll come up with their own ways and ideas.
Yeah.
What we may do is set the environment up so when they are bored, that they can go and try something. So have you a box in your room, where it's like an arts and crafts box. And like, I'm bored, mom, I don't know what to do. Bang, boxes on the table. Where you go. Valentine's Day is coming up. Something's coming up. Create something. I don't want to. That's fine. That's your options. You decide,
Yeah.
you know, are you constantly tidying away all the toys, which is rightly so, depends on the space you have and everything. But like even a simple thing this morning was in the toy room, Colin came out with a plastic golf club and a hurling ball. Just Colin's very fine him. But then it became a game where he had to try and knock that through my legs this morning. And I knock it back and knock it, boom. 2 minutes. Okay, what next? I need to eat now. So he goes and he feeds himself. But again, having that, and I remember writing an article in the paper once about leave a ball around the house. If you have opportunities to leave footballs, leave everything around,
Mhm.
grab her the softer ones and stuff or when you're outside that it just becomes that instant for that child to pick up that rather than picking up a device.
All right, make it easy.
Make it easy.
Yeah.
So definitely that would be one whenever it comes to boredom is first and foremost, let them be bored. You
Hmm.
have to get comfortable as a parent of letting them be bored rather than the easy option, which we've all done at the times, is throw the phone at them. Because then that becomes, oh, I'm bored, I get the phone.
Yeah.
So let them be bored, probably set up that environment, make it easier for them to try something and or let them wait it out. Just let them wait it out. And I know it can be frustrating if you maybe 102 other things you're trying to do in the house, you're trying to clean, tidy. What can I do now? What can I do now? You know, rip out the recycling bin.
Yeah.
Do what you want with that. There you go. Paint it, cut it. So yeah, so that for me would be one way of definitely looking at that boredom. But it's the science behind it too that fascinates me. It's not
Mm.
that you're getting them away from the screen. The screen then increases all this time, but it's what you're doing to their actual brain and their own development. It's just not make believe, or if they're turning into superheroes, they're actually igniting part of their brain that's
Uh,
developing creativity, creative thinking, something they will then use in their adulthood when they have to be more creative because of the way AI is going, the way the world society is changing. Creativity is still going to trump a lot of that.
yeah. Well, if they're observing only, whether it be screens or whatever, the risk is that, as you say, they don't need that imagination part of their brain because it's been shown to them, the text, the video, the audio, the whole thing. So the imagination part of the brain gets lazy, so it's becoming, switching back from being an observer to being a learner, a trier, a doer, a thinker, or whatever, right?
Like 100%. And the other side as well too, that it's the emotional regulation as well with that.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen it as a parent. I've seen it. Even something simple as it was funny because we limit Collins with definitely on the screen on the phone. Screening the TV is different because even that I was listening to something the other day. When you have on screening the TV, it gives you a conversation starter. Oh, what's
Yeah.
the man doing now? Or what's happening there? Why is he doing that? Whereas sometimes in the screen, it just on the phone, it just takes away that opportunity because their eyesight's just here. It's fixated in one thing. But it's it's the it's the emotional regulation then. Like even something simple as when it's loading up to the next video,
Yeah.
or somebody rings your phone and if they're on it, it's like a screaming match at times. Or you take it off them again. How does your child
Mm.
react when you take that screen off them? It's like
It's
an
mad.
addiction. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know with our girls now, we've now said, listen, no YouTube, limit, the amount of screen time in general, and it's like Netflix or something else if you're watching screens, but it's on a big TV. To try and reduce it down, that sort of whatever it is now, flashing, changing the image or changing the camera angle every 2 or 3 seconds now on YouTube videos, and they're all shouting and yelling, and it's crazy, right?
It's like again, I think it's a world too where we're in. And yes, maybe I'm looking at this and researching this, and there's
Mm.
still a whole other minefield. And we also have to realize that the people on the other side, just because the logo looks good on YouTube and Meta and TikTok, these guys are being found out now. These guys are
Yeah.
being questioned and brought to the fore of what psychological methods are you using? What they actually do is they don't prey on what we want, they prey on our weakness. So what's our weakness when it comes to watching content? They want us to be on our screens longer, so they'll
Mm.
get more in advertisement. They'll get people can buy and purchase stuff, increases their thing. So what they do is they prey on our weakness. So what's our weakness? That we want things instant. I was reading a book the other day, and they were saying one of the worst inventions was the continuous scroll. Because whenever, if you ever first had probably Bebo or anything back in the day, you literally had to wait till it load, or you pressed a button to say load more. Now when you're on your phone, it's like a continuous scroll. And the inventor of that, actually, he then started working with Google and Meta, and has now left and started to think to try and get us off our screens more. So it's interesting just where, the psychology that these people play on us, and then we get frustrated maybe as adults,
Mm.
but we realize we're being sucked into it too. So it's the screen world is scary, especially for this whole emotional regulation. That where are we getting the chance to put our children into more opportunities where they can be empathetic, where they can deal with failure, where they maybe have to go through a process of trying over an extended period of time. And I'm talking even 5 minutes, 10 minutes
Yeah.
of I need to focus on this one task. Sounds simple from a really young age, from drawing on in between the lines
Hmm.
to sit down, building your first piece of Lego to then, okay, now I'm going to try and write my first 2 or 3 sentences of a poem. I'm doing my spellings. When we get to school, if we're used to all of this instant, we haven't trained the brain to do all this, no wonder children will struggle as well.
Yeah.
The brains aren't set up for that. They're like, what do you mean I have to spend this? Where's the next video? Where's the next one? It's like, yeah. So definitely with the likes of emotional regulation and how it makes the brain feel in terms of the dopamine hit. Once we take that away, it's like an addiction. How is your child reacting when you take their screen away? And those are questions you ask yourself. And how do you regulate that? What can you do? What habits do you set in? Like yourselves, you're saying, taking them away from some small, it's not like taking them totally away. It's like
Yeah.
small screen to this, or the worst is the empty threats. If you do that again, I'm telling you, you're not on that PlayStation, you're not on this again. You're like, follow through.
Yeah.
Either come up with a better thing that you're going to do it, or follow through on it.
Well, the reaction to that, kids, I mean, are kids being naughty, which is maybe part of their childhood, or they're growing up and that's just who they are, or are they dysregulated? Where does it sit, do you think?
I think it's such an understanding, and every child is different.
Hmm.
And as parents, we have first and foremost make that decision, but try and make it in as informed as you can.
Yeah.
A brilliant book for anybody out there on that would be the whole brain child. So they go through all of that and looking at different techniques and ideas. But I love it because they also say at the end of each chapter, look, there are lines, and if they cross that line, like that's that can just be them on behavior. But it just gives you lovely like illustrations and ideas that, when we want our children, they're going down a nice calm canoe and a canoe on a river, but to the left of them is big heavy rushes and reeds. And this could be them anxiety, maybe depression getting in, the world is caving in on them and you're stuck.
Mm.
Whereas to the right hand side is you have these water rapids, and it's like roaring, shouting, outbursts. It's just crazy. Where now and again you will veer into the race, but you want to go too deep, just come out and you will go into the whitewater raft. But how can we get them to the middle again? We would use emotional regulation. So we all through color. So if you're blue, you're sad. Your green is where you want to get to. You're calm, you're happy. Your yellow is you're silly, you're anxious.
Mm.
Your red then is you're angry and annoyed and upset. So even by getting children to identify their feelings through that method, a lot of schools would do it. Can you identify where you are, or how are you today as you walk in? I'm in the blue. Well, how do we get you to green? It's not like you must get to green. It's
Mm.
how do we get what helps you to get to green, without you playing on us to say, I'm actually just want this. I just said I'm blue. But, is it quiet time in a corner for yourself? Is it, maybe maybe you're in the red and you just need to get outside and run and
Yeah.
move and release. And then you bring yourself back down to green. So yeah, it's a lot there within that to even to take on. But I definitely think when it comes back to that original question, it's your own understanding of it, it's your own child, and probably inform yourself better rather than back in my day we would have got the wooden spoon.
Yeah. No, very true. Well, just on that, I mean, I think it's a great prompt, and I don't know, maybe could you give us maybe 5 or 7 prompts, and I think you mentioned one there is get outside, get the kids outside, get outside, away from screens. What are maybe some prompts that parents can just reflect back on and saying, here's how I can influence behavior through these ideas.
In terms of like getting more movement
Yeah.
and moving away from, I suppose, the knock-on effect when you are that. probably when I do say get outside, but schedule that time. You know, a simple one that was told to me about 6 months ago, and I kind of keep true to it is whenever the children arrive back from school or you arrive back from work, can you give yourself that 10, 15 minutes of, okay, let's just move? You know, I know I do whenever Conlon comes back from the babysitter. Yes, I'm fortunate enough I may be working at home a lot of the time. I can come in, but it's outside. And it could take us anywhere. And it could be the
Hmm.
simplest thing as just, you can't catch me. That's what he normally does. And he starts running around the house. Then he'll find a ball. Then he'll find this. Then one day we went to just a wee clearing or wee forest kind of beside us, and we picked up some sticks and we used those twigs then to start lighting the fire that night. You know, and it's just evolved, but it was giving myself first and foremost, give yourself that space and time. That might be the morning for you. I know some parents maybe might start a bit later because they're dropping the kids to school. You know, is that getting outside and going for a walk? You know, is it maybe being more active getting to school? You know,
Hmm.
park your car further away from the school and have that walk. And that brings a whole thing of active travel. And funny podcast I did with a charity based here as well too that work a lot on that. But the interaction you have with your child in those moments is
Yeah.
huge. But definitely schedule a time in. Other thing as well is leave your breadcrumbs around the house. You know, is it instantly that they're going to pick up a phone? But have you had something else out there? You know, but go pick up stuff on Amazon or B&M bargains where it's, you know, £1 here of this, and you have that stored in a box where they can go and they can pick up and be that more creative.
Mm.
Um, and then what are you doing? What are you modeling? Are
Yeah.
you being active? Are you going like Conan will know even now the difference when I go for a run and I go to the gym because of the pair of shoes that I'm wearing. You know, and he's two
Wow.
and a half. So if I'm coming in wearing bright yellow running shoes, he's like, "Are you run?" And then I come in wearing just my normal Vivos. He's like, "Are you gym?" And like I leave kettlebells around the house,
Hmm.
and he's got his kettlebell, and he'll pick it up. You know, now I may be a little bit in the extreme end of that, but it's the habits that it's not. There's no real negative. You can ask him now to show you a press up and a squat, and he'll do it. And I remember the very, very first one was years ago when Josh was 9. He used to come to the gym with me, but I let him have the freedom. That we used to go to, it was quite a gym. There's no one there. And you get in the rower and stuff. And then one day I was doing a kettlebell swing and he picked up the kettlebell. And I mean perfection of the movement. Like you couldn't taught it any better. I was like, why did you do that? He says, just see you doing them. I was like that eureka
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
So they model behavior. And the only reason I knew was like because about a year ago, I went on probably one of my best courses on that on kettlebell. It was a Russian kettlebell certificate, and it was just like everything
Random,
was
but
down.
okay.
Yeah, hey?
Yeah, random, but okay.
Yeah. But that's what it's called. I know it's like everything now you say in Russia is like, oh my God, conspiracy. Uh, or KC, it's called. Well, even better if you put it that way. But yeah, like it was like yeah, you had to do this test of like doing 100 snatches within a certain time and full on thing. And I came back and fall in love with kettlebell since more or less. But yeah, he just picked it up straight away. There was no intensive course. There was no instructing. There was no like my movement patterns that I had built up over the years
Yeah.
took a lot of correcting in that course. Whereas he watched me do something well and he just repeated it.
I mean, as you're saying that, I'm just thinking, there's times when I'm not, impressed at what maybe some behavior from the girls or something else. But then I have to look back at myself and saying, as you said earlier, I'm saying no phones at the table. Am I off my phone at the table? And of course I can justify it and say, well, I'm trying to book a course for you, or I'm trying to see what time or where we need to be somewhere else. But as you say, it is monkey see, monkey do, right? They're seeing that as, there is no condition, or yes, you've said this, but then you've done something different, you
Yeah.
know, dual standards.
And I think that's the thing to add to what I was saying is like, yeah, model good behavior, but watch
Mm.
what else you're modeling,
Yeah.
just to back that up. So
Yeah.
Those would definitely be a few. And one thing always was like, what are they interested in? You know, if your child's into motorsport or into the racing or anything, I know a good friend of mine, like, he wouldn't be into any of that at all, but
Mhm.
he's starting to take his child. I think they went to Nuts Corner and one of the motorbike thing. But he said his boy was just in awe of it. And I remember buying for Josh's birthday one time, he drove, it was in Armagh. It was the car circuit. We went round, so I got to drive some sort of car. I'm not big into cars, but he drove around a wee Ford car actually on his own
Mhm.
around a racetrack because he was interested in it. So what do not what you're interested in, and you'll find maybe the other end where you'll see a lot of parents that they've maybe played a certain sport growing up that they nearly force their children into it. You're like, let them find a way, and probably more than likely they'll follow your path,
Mhm.
but don't force them into it, but also be open to do that. And then probably finally to add on to that would be variety. Let's give our children as much variety
Mhm.
as we can. So and it doesn't even have to be anything expensive or over costly, but do they have a bike? And I was on a conversation with them the other day, but go on Facebook Marketplace if you're getting a child on a bike.
Mhm.
Um, do they have, is there footballs around the house? It doesn't have to be a Premier League ball at whatever price they are now. Are you going to the swimming pool the odd time? Just going to your local leisure centre. What else are you guys doing? Is that in variety? And as they start playing sport, are they not only go, oh, they do football or they do Gaelic and then they go to here, but are they doing all team sports?
Mhm.
Could you potentially put them into a martial arts, an individual sport, golf, tennis? Give them an opportunity where, you know what, now you're on your own. Let's see
Yeah.
what you learn there. Let's see what physical skills you learn, but let's see what emotional regulation, uh, tactical skills that you can wear by having multi sports. Because in a lot of countries, including our own, there's a lot of what we call like team evasion sports. So your football, your hurling, your Gaelic, your netball, your basketball. Yes, there's transferable skills, but a lot of it is like I have a team. I'm here. This is what I do. We're together. I'm using the same kind of movement patterns because I'm stepping on my left to push to the right. I'm trying to evade somebody. Whereas you get into a boxing ring or you get into a cage with somebody and you're grappling, and you're like, right, I have to really think differently here. You're striking a tennis ball when it's coming at you at different pace and coming off, and you're on your own and you're against somebody else. And when it's 40 all, who's going to step up? You're not waiting
Yeah.
your teammate, it's you. So, um, so yeah, so they would definitely be a few points on that. I can't remember where we even
Mhm.
started off with it, but there was a few there.
No, absolutely. I mean, and that's it's sort of one of those things. I suppose even with parents, it's sort of because listen, a lot of parents are, parents sort of say, listen, I'm exhausted, I'm working, I'm trying to do the best. Social media says I should do this, and modern society says that. So it's even trying to say to parents, listen, there's practical steps can be taken. Some stuff is easier, some stuff takes a wee bit more intention, but knowing that actually we don't need to mollycoddle them, we don't need to do more for them. In fact, we possibly need to do less for them. Maybe is that a
Yeah.
fair statement?
Oh, huge. Like, that's probably another one tip you should is get out of their way.
Mm.
One of the biggest strengths that we do when we're coaches ask questions. And it was a coach gave me a really good coaching cue once. He says, go in with the three no's. If a child is playing a sport, for example, and they're maybe doing something you perceive is not the
Mm.
right way, or maybe they're feeling a certain thing, before going in and tell them, just step in and say no. Okay, then step back. A second time you're about to step in, say no to yourself again. Third time you step in, say no, but go in with a question.
Oh, no to yourself. So I'm
Sorry,
I thought
sorry,
you were
yeah,
talking about
sorry,
the child.
sorry. Yeah, I should have said that from the start. But no, no to yourself. So three no's, no, no to yourself. So
Right.
say no. As soon as you're a step in, you say no. Second time, you say no to yourself. Third time, you say no, but you ask a question and you'll be like, how does that feel to you? Are you happy enough in that position? What do you, yeah, that's fine. Now, they may then their wee brain might start to go, well, what are they talking about? What are they doing? And
Mm.
they can start to be creative and feel certain things. And however they respond, you're like, perfect, brilliant. And then go back to see them loop until they maybe find a way. You know, and questions massive in our coaching. We will always ask children, can you do this a different way? Is there anything else you can do? How could you do it? How could you make it easier? How could we make this harder? So if you're even at home and you're playing and he's like, no, 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 we need to do it this way. It's like, what other way could we do it?
Yeah.
You know, then this is how you play football. Is it?
Mm.
Says who?
Yeah.
You know, instead of, what else could we do with this ball? Can you think of a different game? What if, and then the kid will get excited, well, what if you stand way over there, right, and you put your hands up and I have to kick it between your hands? Fantastic. Okay, let's go. Right, you stand over there and open up your legs now, and I have to try and hit it, but it has to go up the hill and then roll back down through your legs. You're like, fantastic.
Yeah.
So given that opportunity, and then that whole thing of risky play of stepping back, and then as children start to get that wee
Mm.
bit older, given that freedom to go and explore, you
Yeah.
know, and have your guidelines. Look, away for 10 minutes and come back.
Yeah.
You can only go as far as the first park. You can go as far as the first shop. Okay, now you can go to the town, but you come back in. And and when they come to ask, just rethink, you know, but I'm keeping them safe. But are you actually holding them back? It's that fine
Yeah.
line.
Yeah.
You know, and that's only a decision that you can have. But my first thing for me is question yourself on that. You know, that's is it true, or is there something else there? So
Yeah.
yeah,
If a parent or a teacher or leader takes one key thing away from this conversation today, what is it that you'd love for them to hold on to?
I think of that thing that children aren't changing, our environment is. So don't lay blame on the child. Be empathetic. If you're a teacher, be empathetic too to the parents. You don't know what they have come from as well. But how can you alter your environment to help give children a better opportunity?
Mhm. Love it. Love it. Gary, thank you. Thank you for today, as always. Listen, so many golden nuggets of information in there. So I will let you finish up on your own show and hand you back the mic.
Yeah, well, I just have to thank you for hosting that. That was brilliant. So rather than me trying to remember that stuff to say, so really good. And as always, you are a brilliant host. Great questions and very thought provoking. So I really enjoyed that, and I think hopefully everybody listening, you guys enjoyed that, and make sure and let us know what else, what other topics would you like us to talk about to explore. Have you any comments on this, or even just let us know how you're getting on or any ideas to share? But until then, guys, thank you so much, and we will hear and see you in the next episode. Cheerio. Bye bye.